We've probably all heard the joke about the difference between the Shlemiel, the Shlemazel, and the Nudnik. The Shlemiel is the guy who spills the soup on the Shlemazel. And the Nudnik is the one who asks, what kind of soup was that? So that's Shlemiel and Shlemazel and Nudnik. In this month, the Jewish people are called Bari Mazli, extra mazel, beyond the regular mazel. I don't know if in Yiddish there's a word for the opposite of a Shlemazel, but if there is such a word, that's who we are in the month of Adar. We are the diametrically opposed to Shlemazel.
The best time to go to court.
Best time to go to court, that's right. Not only the best time to go to court, here's a riddle. What happens once a year? What happens for a whole month a year? And what happens for a moment of the day? And never stops. It goes on forever. It happens for a month of the year. It happens for a moment of the day. It happens for a whole month of the year. It happens one day of the year. What is it?
I don't know.
It's the month of Purim. This is called, the month of Adar is called the month of Purim.
But wait, month of Purim.
And it says this month is a month when Hashem transformed the whole month to be a time of joy. So not just a time of Purim itself, a time of joy, but the whole month is considered a time of joy, a time of happiness. And the happiness is around the unique celebration of Purim. Why is Purim a unique celebration? What's unique about it? Gemara says that ordinarily the Jewish courts would send out policemen to various Jewish families for every holiday, and they'll make sure that no one was getting too happy. Their joy wasn't making them carried away, making them do stuff that wasn't okay. They would do this for every holiday, except for one. Which holiday? The holiday of Purim. Why not the holiday of Purim? Because the holiday of Purim is Ad Lo Yoda. Holiday of Purim is about the joy that you go out of yourself, beyond your mind, beyond your limitations. And that's the theme, not just of the day of Purim, but the whole month. And perhaps that's the reason why we're so happy this month, is because Hashem shows us how close He is with us. It's not just that Hashem gives us extra blessings. It's that when you see Hashem is closer with you, you're happy because of the closeness, because of your connection to Hashem, which is what Ad Lo Yada really means. Ad Lo Yada means you're celebrating beyond the limitations, beyond your calculations, beyond your mind, that your inner bond with Hashem. That's also the meaning of the words Mazel. Mazel in Hebrew means to drip. There's a part of the soul which is in the body, and the part of the soul in heaven is called Mazel. The reason why we sometimes have feelings and thoughts which don't seem to come from anywhere is because of the mazel, because the higher part of the soul, which is in tune with Hashem's voice and sees things in Gan Eden, and that trickles down us in our own experience, human beings in this world, is because of the mazel of the neshama. So in this month, the month of Adar, we have this more. We have, first of all, Hashem shows us connection with us more. He gives us more blessings, but also ourselves, there's more joy. In the month of Adar, we're able to be more connected than a regular way. And what's the connection called? The connection is called Ad Lo Yoda, beyond logic and reason. And it also is true for every day. Every day Hashem tells us, start off the day with Ad Lo Yoda. The Gemara, the Torah says, the Megillah says, the days of Purim will never, lo yavrum techa Yehudim, they will never cease from the Jewish people, v'zichron lo yosem ezarim, and their memory will never cease from the Jewish people. So the simple meaning of this is that every year we'll celebrate Purim. It will be a holiday that's celebrated every year. It's not 10 million millennia from now. You know one thing. Jewish people will celebrate Purim. It's something which goes on forever. It never stops. But besides the fact that it never stops, it also means not just a holiday once a year never stops, but also it's never supposed to stop. The deeper meaning of this verse is, this phrase is, Purim never stops. Not just that we always celebrate Purim every year, but Purim is never meant to stop. Every day you're supposed to start off your day with Purim. How do you start off your day with Purim every day? When you say Meida Ani in the morning, you say Meida Ani, that is your Purim moment of the day. That's Ad Lo Yada. Meida Ani simply means I offer thanks to you, living an eternal King, for returning my soul within me, with mercy. But the deeper meaning of Moda Ani is, I am moda to you. I put aside my logic, I put aside my reasoning, my feelings, and I submit that you, Hashem, I submit myself to you beyond logic and reason. That's Moda Ani. That's how every Jew starts their day every day. And that moment is supposed to expand throughout the entire day. That's what the month of Adar is about. Now back at the ranch, Yankel's looking at the mirror, and Yankel is saying to himself, I know who I am, I know the mistakes I'm making, I know that I'm still getting older and lazier and fatter and less intelligent, and I'm waiting for that thing in me that I know I have to come out, but it's never going to come out. I know all I feel is Shlemazel. You're telling me that I'm supposed to have super mazel, but when in my experience, I feel Shlemazel, not super mazel. So how do we go from Shlemazel to super mazel? We all know what I'm talking about. Everyone knows that in themselves you have something inside you. You have some kind of strength in you. You know you're Jewish, and yet you don't not always in touch with it. And the question is how to get in touch with that strength that's in us, that power inside of us, the mazel that's in us. So let's look at this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion talks about the building of the Mishkan, and in the building of the tabernacle, the Torah emphasizes that to build this tabernacle, you have to have wood, which is called shittim. What's shittim mean? Shittim is the name of a place. What place? It's a place the Jewish people did a grave sin. What does a grave sin have to do with wood for the tabernacle? The Talmud says that the word shittim means to turn off. The Jewish people sinned with the daughters of Moab, and they sinned in the place called shittim because that is a place where they made this mistake of veering off logic and reason, going lower, just doing things because that's what I'm doing because I don't care. That's what shtus means. That's what foolishness is. A woman who is unfaithful to her husband, the Torah describes her as tista. She turns away from the path of modesty. The Gemara says a person does not do a sin. No person ever commits a sin unless a spirit of foolishness enters them. The Rambam says there's the middle path. The middle path is a path of logic and reason. Shtus, foolishness, is to go below logic and reason. Just do things because I just want to do this, because this is just what I'm in the mood of. We know ourselves that when we look a little bit into the long run, we make less mistakes. If you're just eating now because I'm not talking about people eating right now, sorry. If you're eating because of, you just think, this is good, this is enjoyable, that's great. But then you think in the long run, do I want to really gain more pounds? And you don't think about eating, right now I'm going to eat because I want to eat. But if you look at the long run, you may not eat the same things. Or business. You may say, I don't want to lose money right now. But then on the other hand, if you look at the long run, maybe it's worth to lose money and to invest some money because you'll gain much more money in the long run. Maybe the risk and gain is what business is all about. So it's possible that a person is unable to detach themselves from the present and to look into the future. And that is foolishness. That's what shtus is. So why is the temple made out of foolishness? What is the temple? The Mishkan is made out of a wood from shittim. What does it mean? So the answer is that there's two different kinds of shittim, two different kinds of shtus, two different kinds of foolishness. There is what's called shtus de klippa, idiocy, foolishness, stupidness, which comes from klippa. What's klippa mean? Klippa means a shell. Just like a fruit has a peel, and the peel protects the fruit, so too Hashem created evil, and evil is something which gives value and supports goodness and holiness. How so? When you are, when you're challenged to do the right thing, and you do the right thing anyways, you are able to bring something out of yourself that you couldn't have done without the challenge. I was learning the Gemara this morning. The Gemara says that when Mashiach will come, the tzaddikim are going to cry, and the Rishonim are going to cry. The righteous will cry, and the wicked will cry. Why will everybody cry? The tzaddikim will cry because Hashem is going to slaughter the Yetzer Hara, slaughter the evil inclination. And the tzaddikim will cry, and Marsha says this. Marsha says they're going to cry because they'll look at this mountain, and they'll say, how did we lose this mountain? The Yetzer Hara, the inclination, is called a mountain. Rashi says a different explanation. Marsha says this. Marsha says, because of this evil inclination, we were able to reach such a high place. Without this evil inclination, we wouldn't be able to get anywhere in life. This is amazing. They'll thank Hashem for this amazing evil inclination that He gave them, and they'll feel such a loss. Mashiach comes, the Friedrich Rebbe, the previous Rebbe said, we're going to take our tzitzis, we're going to bang it into our heads, and we'll say, I wish I could go back to the time of exile. So the second Mashiach comes, oh man, I wish we were back in exile for a second, so I could show that I'm there, that I'm faithful to Hashem and challenge and overcome the challenges. But on the other hand, the Gemara says that those who succumb to the evil inclination will also cry, because they'll say the evil inclination is like a hair. It's a tiny hair. How could I not have overcome this simply Yetzer Hara? Why don't we overcome the simply Yetzer Hara? Because of the Ruach, just the spirit of foolishness. So that's one kind of spirit of foolishness, below logic and reason. And then there's another kind of spirit of foolishness. And that spirit of foolishness which is beyond logic and reason. Because we all know ourselves, we all have a foolishness, we all have an idiocy that's lower than logical reason. We all have things that we look in the mirror and we're upset about, or that we've done in our life, the things we wish we could delete from our history, we wish we wouldn't have done. We know there's a part of ourselves that brings us and attracts us to things that leave much to be desired. And yet we have that. Because we do, Hashem gives us something else to combat that. And that is to be devoted to Hashem beyond logic and reason, beyond intelligence, beyond limitation. That's shtus, that's foolishness, that's lamaila of holiness. That's beyond logic and reason. The way to fix up the negative tendencies inside of ourselves, if you know you have a foolishness below logic and reason, then you know you need to employ in yourself the foolishness which is beyond logic and reason. You know you need it more because you got it, because you have the other one, the yucky one. You have the yucky foolishness which is below logic and reason, therefore you got to use the other gift Hashem gave you, which is the one beyond logic and reason. Just for a second, let's explore what that is. This foolishness, beyond logic and reason, this adula yod, element inside of us, this ability to serve Hashem beyond logic and reason, this is something in us that knows no limitations. It's a connection, it's our inner bond with Hashem, it's our most central part of ourselves, it's our deepest self, and that is the essence of a Jew is adula yod. The essence of a Jew is someone who serves Hashem beyond logic and reason. We all know that there are times in our life that we had no reason to do this, we had no reason why we should do the right thing, and somehow our neshama came, our soul came out and said, I'm going to do this anyways. And that moment is a moment you don't forget. You become in touch with who you are. Previous Rebbe in Russia, in hard times under Stalin, he gathered together 9 other chassidim, and he told them, we're going to make a pact together, a covenant together, to give the last drop of blood that we possess to preserve the Torah and its commandments. The previous Rebbe didn't just say it, but throughout his life, this was how he lived. The previous Rebbe, at one point, before he became Rebbe, he heard of a certain decree that Chaim, which is L'chaim? Say L'chaim. Oh, I have to figure that out. The previous Rebbe heard about a certain decree that was being formulated against all religious Jews. There was a lot of hatred from the Haskalah movement towards religious Jews, who were succeeded by the other group called the Obsektia, and the Rebbe Cashapp had sent the previous Rebbe to combat this decree. He was in Petersburg, and he was trying very hard to stop this decree, and he couldn't. So he came back home. Before he came home, he sent a telegram to his father. His father said, keep on, stay there longer. You got to stop this. He stayed there longer, nothing happened. So we went back home. When he went back home, he arrived home in Lubavitch, and the Rebbe Cashapp was checking his tzitzis. Before you put on your talus, you're supposed to put the talus over your shoulder and check your tzitzis. So the Rebbe Cashapp sees the previous Rebbe, and he says to him that one time the Alter Rebbe sent his son, the Middle Rebbe, on a mission, and his son, the Middle Rebbe, wasn't successful in his mission. And he came back, and the Alter Rebbe was checking his tzitzis when he came back. So the Rebbe Cashapp told the previous Rebbe, so the Alter Rebbe said to the Middle Rebbe that it says about the talus. The talus is something that brings down an infinite light of Hashem that blinds the eyes of evil. Blinds the eyes of evil means that it makes you not even think about doing the wrong things. It's not even in your eyes. So the Mitzvah Rebbe got the hint. He kissed the tzitzis of his father, And he turned around and he went to do the mission that he was sent to do. So the previous Rebbe understood this hint. He kissed the tzitzis of his father. He turned around and he went right back to St. Petersburg. He comes there and he's thinking, what could I do? And the one who was causing all the problems was a certain man named Mr. Krebs. And that's his name. And he was the liaison between the Haskalah movement and the government. And he had this whole long, intricate explanation of how terrible the Jews are. He works for Goyim TV. I don't know if you saw unfortunately, what's going on in Orlando with these anti-Semites, Rahman al-Islam, who are just spouting horrible things. Anyways, so this is the kind of guy he was. The previous episode, I have to go to speak to him. So he goes to this guy's hotel room, and this guy's very proud of himself. He's, look, you know what I'm doing. You know who I am. He knew what the previous Rebbe was. You know who I am. I have this great thing I'm doing. I'm going to get you guys into such trouble you have no idea. And the previous Rebbe said, how do you do this? So he shows the previous Rebbe a book of documents, of letters, of all kinds of information, evidence against religious people. The previous Rebbe took the book, started ripping it up. There's a fireplace there. He started throwing the book, every page in the fireplace. And the guy, it wasn't like today, you have it on the cloud, you have it in a floppy disk, there was nothing like that. It was gone. So the guy, he's like, what are you doing? I don't have any car, how you, what? So he slapped the previous Rebbe in the face. The previous Rebbe turned and he went back home. That's shtus d'kedusha. It's if you ask your mind, what's the point of going to see this guy who's an anti-Semite? What's the point of going back there? Your mind, your heart, but that wasn't the part of himself that was making this happen. What was going on is in the previous Rebbe, there's something, and every Jew has this part of the Rebbe in them, which is shtus l'mayim matamadas, a foolishness beyond logic and reason. This is what the Gemara says about Rav Shmuel bar Shelis. Shmuel bar Shelis, by every wedding, he would take 3 myrtle branches and he would juggle them. And Reb Zera, he said, you're embarrassing us. You're embarrassing us. You're disgracing all the chachamim, all the tzaddikim, all the wise men by the way your frivolous behavior. So that's what Reb Zera said. But when Reb Shmuel bar Shelis passed away, the Gemara says that there was a pillar of fire around his casket. So the same Reb Zera who said that he's embarrassing everybody, he said, why did this happen? It was because of his myrtles, or another text in the Gemara reads, it was because of his path in life, and the third text in the Gemara means because of his idiocy, because of his foolishness beyond logic and reason. The foolishness beyond logic and reason comes from a very good and deep place in ourselves. It doesn't have a reason, but if we don't use that part of ourselves, we're prone to use the other part, which is to go lower than logical reason. Think about it. An addict. I've spoken to an addict who said that he would take his mother's golden fillings out of her mouth to be able to sell them to get drugs. That's how crazy the addiction is. And you ask him, how could you do such a thing? What are you thinking even? But it's lower than logical reason. You can't ask. It's a drive. That's the unexplainable. There was a man who had a problem with his finger. He went to the doctor, and the doctor kept him waiting. And he told the guy was very nervous, going up and walking around the waiting room. And the doctor's like, I see you're in a rush somewhere. He says, you have to be somewhere. I have an appointment at 9:30. Who's your appointment with? Appointment with my wife. Okay, can you call her and tell her that you're going to be late? I see you're very nervous about this appointment. He says, no, I can't call her. He says, why not? She has Alzheimer's and she doesn't recognize me anymore. She doesn't speak on the phone anymore. So he's like, so why are you so concerned about your appointment at 9:30 if she doesn't even recognize you? He says, doctor, I don't understand you. She doesn't recognize me, but I recognize her. The doctor was blown away. He couldn't stop crying, thinking on it. That's the meaning of shtus d'kedusha. Shtus d'kedusha, foolishness beyond logic and reason. It means there's a deep bond. There's a deep bond that you don't let go. This is also the meaning of the story in Tanakh. The Torah says that when the Ark of Hashem returned to Yerushalayim, King David went and danced and danced and danced. And when he came home to his wife, the daughter of Shaul, Michal said to him, I heard that the king of Israel, said very disdainfully, I heard the king of Israel was acting a little nuts today, acting like one of those boorish people. So David HaMelech, it sounds like he's giving her what for back. He sounds like he's taking back at her. He says, actually, he says, I am dancing and singing before Hashem, who has chosen me instead of your father. Instead of her, she was the daughter of Shaul HaMelech. It sounds like she attacked him, and boy, did he attack her back. So now what's going on? What's going on is explaining to her why he did it. Why did he dance like a crazy man? What is it about? The idea of malchus, the idea of sovereignty, of kingship, is a power in the neshama. And in order for sovereignty, in order for us to have what that power of the neshama is about, it's about devotion to Hashem beyond logic and reason. And nothing can stop you. There's nothing that can stop you because, in language of the previous Rebbe, Mesiras Nefesh L'Zayin Anish. Devotion to Hashem means it's the way it has to be, it can't be any other way. That's what it means. That's who you are. That's who a Jew is. As everyone said, the essence of a Jew is Mesiras Nefesh. The essence of a Jew is devotion to Hashem. The essence of a Jew is tshuva. That's who you are. So David HaMelech said, your father, Shaul, he went with logic and reason. There's a limit to how that's not what can carry God's sovereignty. That's not what reveals in the Jewish people their power to be a king. Being a king means that nothing can stop you. That you're able to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. Your father, with his intelligence, is not able to get there. The way to get there is to dance before Hashem, beyond logic and reason. That's what David told her. So we all have this. And as long as it's not there, we don't feel who you really are. Until you go beyond logic and reason, until you devote yourself to what Hashem wants you to do, you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are and what you are. But all other soul powers we have, they're limited. But this soul power, and they sometimes they're more effective. Other soul powers, like Shaul, his intelligence brought him to different. The Gemara says about Shaul HaMelech, he was amazing. The Gemara says he was 1 year old when he was a king. And the Gemara explains, what do you mean he's a 1 year old king? He was a perfect tzaddik. His intelligence brought him to be perfect. And yet, even perfection has a limit. David HaMelech, on the other hand, is something else. David HaMelech is Hashem. He dances and sings before Hashem beyond logic and reason. That has no limits. Now, David HaMelech's kingship and sovereignty goes on forever. But it's not just about David HaMelech. We're going to read the Megillah soon, and we're going to read about Esther. And how Mordechai tells Esther, you got to go speak to Achashverosh. And Esther tells Mordechai, what are you talking about? I got to speak to Achashverosh. Do you know the rules? The rules are, if you're not called to speak to the king, and you come to the king and he doesn't put out the golden scepter, you get killed. I haven't been called to the king in 30 days. Why in the world would I do that? And what does Mordechai respond to her? He says, he says to her, the Jewish people will be saved by other means. But who knows, maybe for this reason you were chosen to be queen. What Mordechai was telling Esther is Higat la Malchus. Higat la Malchus means that you reached a state in yourself that you have total control. That you're the king, you're the queen. You could accomplish something. Higat la Malchus. If Igat Malchus means you have this ability in yourself to go all the way. There's nothing that could stop you. That's what Igat Malchus means. You've reached a position of being the queen. Every Jew has this ability. We have to have the words that Mordechai told Esther in front of our eyes all the time. Let's think about this practically. Practically means very simple. Somebody insulted you. Somebody hurt your feelings. And they hurt your feelings very badly. Higat Malchus means you're able to turn around, you're able to forgive them. You're able to totally let go. You were hurt very deeply and you were betrayed. Someone needs your help. And you're able to go do so much, and there's something you cannot do. You can't do. Higat Malchus means that you have to try to go beyond your limits, and you have to turn around and say, no, this came to me, and Hashem asked me, it's something that's not happening by itself. When in order to build your tabernacle, in order to build your home for Hashem within inside of you, you need to have this wood. Just like the temple was built with the wood of shittim, to build your own temple, for Hashem inside of you, you need to have this. This is what builds your temple. Without this foolishness, beyond logic and reason, you can't create your temple. What makes your temple in you is this feeling, this devotion to Hashem beyond logic and reason. You can't, to build yourself, you have to have this. And this is also the reason the Gemara says, in today's Chumash and today's Chitas, we learned that Yaakov Avinu, he actually brought wood to Egypt, and he planted it in Egypt. And in order, the Jewish people, says Rabbi Tanchuma, that when they leave Egypt, they should be able to have wood to build a tabernacle. What does that mean? They could find wood themselves. They could plant wood in Egypt themselves. Yaakov said, bring it all the way, schlep it all the way to Egypt, and schlep it from Egypt. They could have bought it from the traveling nomads in the desert. What's it mean? They have other things they bought from the traveling nomads, or many other things in the tabernacle that were very hard to get, but they got them. They had to get the stones for the breastplate, the Kohen Gadol. There are a lot of things that had to be found and discovered, and how then with clouds the Jewish people wanted to do different things. They went with whatever. But what's the meaning of Yaakov doing this? What Yaakov was doing was very, very powerful. You are in Egypt. Everyone around you is doing the wrong thing. Everything around you is bad. Everything around you is dark. Your kids wake up one day and say, Dad, it's so hard, it's so terrible. So you tell your kids, we're going to leave Egypt. Like, no, we're not. You were born in Egypt. I was born in Egypt. Zaidi was born in Egypt. And Zaidi's Tati, Zaidi's father was also born in Egypt. What do you mean we're going to leave Egypt? You tell your child, look outside, you see those cedar trees. You know what they're about? Our great-grandfather Yaakov brought them here because he knew that we're going to leave Egypt and we're going to build a tabernacle for Hashem. That's what those trees are about. By them having those trees in Egypt, that gave them not just faith in Hashem, it gave them the power to be who Jews needed to be. That's why they were in Egypt. The Jewish people did not change their names, they didn't change their food, they didn't change their language, they didn't change their clothing. Where did they get their strength from? They looked at those cedar trees. They looked at the trees that Yaakov planted. And that's why it's cedar trees. One of the unique qualities of a cedar tree is gizeh machlef. Gizeh machlef means it has a renewal. Sometimes you feel you're so worn out, you're so dried up, you have nothing left. The idea of gizeh machlef, what builds the tabernacle is a cedar it's unique, that it has this power of renewal. A Jew can feel he's totally broken and shattered and overwhelming pain, Rachmana litzlan. And yet, Hashem tells the Jew, you have to know that what builds your tabernacle, and you have this, is shtus kedusha, is devotion to Hashem beyond logic and reason. Another meaning of the wood that Yaakov brought to Egypt, specifically wood, he could have also brought spices to Egypt. He could have planted things for the spices of the incense. But it was wood specifically because it says that Yaakov Avinu, he bought the shtus kedusha, the wood of shittim. He was telling him you need to have this craziness, devotion to Hashem beyond logic and reason, because that's who you are. Another amazing thing, today in the Chumash we learned how when they built the tabernacle, there were these cross beams that went all the way across. Where were those cross beams from? You know, Yaakov in general planted trees in Egypt. Where was the cross beam from? You know where it's from, Baruch?
Lebanon.
It was from Yaakov's staff. Ooh. Yaakov used his staff to cross the river, and that staff is what was put into the tabernacle, and that staff went from one side to the other side of the tabernacle. This middle one,
It went around the corner.
right, and all the way around. So the idea of it going all the way around means the Jew has the ability to go all the way around, to go beyond what's normal, what makes sense, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and to maintain the connection between your children, to your spouse, to your friends, to those who are not such good friends. I'll tell you one more story, let you guys go. There was a Jew whose name was the Baba Rebbe. The Baba Rebbe came to the United States, I think it was 1946. He had a little shul in the Lower East Side. He lost his wife and his children in the Holocaust.
Well,
And he, when he came here, he had no one. And he tried to make his little synagogue, and he had to schlep people for a minyan. The great Baba Rebbe, he needed to drag people in to get a minyan. He had nobody.
I see Rabbi Levin have to do the same thing. The great Rabbi Levin.
What bothered him wasn't this. What bothered him was he knew that there were many thousands of survivors that wanted to get into the United States, and they weren't able to get in the United States because the American government knew accepting immigrants who have no penny to their name are going to ruin the country. The actual opposite happened. The Jewish people came in, they brought the wealth, but the Americans didn't want to let them in, and they brought the wealth with their money, they brought the wealth with their ingenuity, and they did amazing things. But anyways, the Americans didn't want to let them in, and they refused so many people to come to America. You all know the famous story about this boat that came to America, and America sent it away, and the people in the boat died. It was 1,000 people in the boat. Crazy story. America, the great America, the land of the free. They said, no, the Statue of Liberty, give us, you're tired and hungry, but not the Jews. Anyways, so this guy, this tzaddik, the Baba Rebbe, it really bothered him. So he decided he's going to go to Washington. He sent letter after letter to Washington. He knew there was a man named Saul Bloom, a senator who was in charge of the immigration. He wanted to speak to him. So he traveled, eventually got a letter back. In 6 months, he got 5 minutes. All right, what's he supposed to do? Comes his appointment. He travels to Washington. He sleeps on a park bench in Washington. And he comes at 9 o'clock in the morning to his appointment, 8:45 to make sure he's there. He's not called at 9 o'clock. There's a lot of people coming into this guy's office. And he is like air. No one's looking at him. No one's thinking about him. He's just air. People in and out. He is not there. Eventually, he's called into Mr. Bloom's office. He comes to Mr. Bloom's office. Mr. Bloom doesn't even look up. Who are you? What's he going to say? I'm the Baba Rebbe. Baba Rebbe. What does that mean to him? Baba Blackjack and scissors. It doesn't mean anything to him. So the Baba Rebbe, he doesn't even look up. He says, I'm somebody who breaks the law. What do you mean? Mr. Bloom, he knew was someone who was very into legal processes. He said, I'm someone who breaks the law. What do you mean break the law? He said, I break the law. They said that every Jew has to, in Germany, they announced that every Jew has to come forward and to announce that they're Jewish. I didn't. I hid. They announced that you're not allowed to run away from the Nazis, you'll get killed. And I broke the law and I ran away. They said that if you're Jewish, if you hide someone who's Jewish in your home, you'll get killed. I broke the law. I helped Jews escape, and I hid myself, and I helped Jews hide. I broke the law. I'm the one who breaks the law. Do you want to also break the law with me? And that's why I dedicate myself to break the law. So he said this, the way this tzaddik could say it, and he burst out crying. And he said, I want you to help me break the law and save Jewish lives. Are you in? He put his hand out, and Mr. Bloom took his hand. He couldn't break the law. He changed the law. He couldn't change the law. But he made false passports. And he saved many, many people. Say false passports is against the law. How can he do it? He's challenging his own position. This is what a Jew is, my friends. A Jew is not a Shlemazel. A Jew is more than Mazel. More than Mazel means to go beyond your logic and reason. And the Mazal, the power of the Chodesh Adar, Hashem shows us tremendous blessing this month, and He gives us the power to reveal who we are and what we are. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'veracha.
In